Alrighty, we're here. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kodable Back to School webinar. We are so excited to talk to you all. We're so excited to go back to school with you. I'm Gretchen. I'm one of the founders of Kodable. With me today is Hannah. And we are looking forward to the new school year. Even though it's going to look a little bit different, we've learned a lot in the spring and in the summer, and we're ready with lots of great tools for you to use to support your students, whether you are in person or remote. Do you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Hannah Boston. I am the instructional coach and designer here at Kodable. So the bulk of my role is creating resources for you, for the teachers, to make teaching easier in your classroom. So that includes teacher guides and lesson plans, as well as materials for students. So I've been working a lot on student-facing videos and worksheets, anything to support that first-time experience using Kodable. And I actually have a background in teaching. I did about 5 years as a preschool teacher and museum educator and taught some middle school computer science as well. So I'm really excited that everybody is here and that we can share some of these awesome resources that we've been working on to get ready for the school year.
Hey, thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. I see you guys are introducing yourselves in the chat. If you haven't introduced yourself, please, tell us your name, where you're from, what grades you teach, and maybe one thing that you are either nervous about or excited about for the new school year. I'm going to quickly go over our agenda, and then we'll get started. So first, we're going to talk about our remote learning tools. Lots of you asked for tools to support your students as you're teaching remotely. So we're going to cover all of the things that we created this summer, including some remote login tools, as well as some teaching tools for you. Then we're going to go over how to set up one or many classes. Many of you asked about how you can set up lots of classes all at once. And so we're going to go over some of those tools with you. Then we're going to see what it looks like to log in and play as a student, just so that you know what your students are experiencing, and you can see what it's like to log in for them. Then Hannah has some instructional tips for you and tools. A lot of you asked about grade-specific teaching tips, so she's going to share some of that with you, including our scope and sequence. And we've set aside a good amount of time today for questions and answers. Normally, we like to spend a little bit more time going through like the setup of everything, but we knew that this year would be a little bit different. There might be lots of extra questions, so we've set aside a good amount of time for Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions, please post them in the chat on the right-hand side of the video. Bree, who many of you might have already talked to, is standing by answering questions as they come up. But if we see some, we may pause and answer them during the webinar. So, all right, we'll get started. So I'm going to go over to my teacher dashboard, and this is at dashboard.kodable.com. And this is where you log in to see everything that you need to manage your classes, to see lesson plans, to check student progress, to assign videos, to assign levels to students. It's at dashboard.kodable.com. Right now, this is our new remote learning COVID-19 support page. We've added this over the summer. It's your hub for all of the tools that you might need to support students learning remotely, but all of these tools are really useful whether or not you're in the classroom. So I imagine they will eventually become a permanent fixture in the Kodable product. They just might be in a different place, but for now, they're all here in a quick place to find them. First, I'm going to go over student login. So I'm going to show you. Okay, so we created this custom link for teachers. So this is a great place for you to share with families how they can find their child's login information. So this is a custom link for you and your classes. So once it loads, it'll show. Okay, great. So you can see I have a lot of classes, so I took a little while to load, but you can see here are all of my classes. My parents can go to find their class, then they'll view the class, and they'll be able to find their child. So once they find their child, they can download login instructions, and this will show them exactly how to log into the game, how to use the class code, what the class code is, everything that their child needs to log in and get started learning at home. So you can see it shows use the school profile, where to log in on iOS, where to log in on web, and then the class code and the parent code for them. Great. All right, and the next tool that we have, if you're not comfortable sharing all of that information with parents, then that's totally fine. We have an option here to just download a CSV of all of your students' login information. So this is nice if you want to put it in your LMS, or if you just want to send it to people individually, but you want it all in a single list. You can get it for each class. If you want to get all classes, you just click export all classes. If you want to find a specific class, you just click that, and it's going to save a CSV for me. There you go. You can see I've got my child, the student's profile name, the class name, the class code, and then if you have passwords enabled for your class, either a password or a picture password, it'll show what that would be for the student right here. If you don't have it on, it's still going to show up here because we assign those automatically. You just have to enable it if you want to use it, but it'll still be on this list. Okay, and the last thing that I want to cover is our letter to families. So this is really nice to use in conjunction with either of these options. It's a letter that goes over exactly what students are going to be learning this year in Kodable and in coding in general. We have a Spanish version and an English version. I'm going to show that. So yeah, it shows what we will learn. We're learning to code, what grades K-2 are going to learn, and what grades 3 through 5 are going to learn, why coding is important. And then down here at the bottom, you've got their class code and instructions on how to log in with that. So it's really useful if you just want to send this home. That's totally adequate. But if you want to send more information, if you have passwords enabled or something like that, either of the two options that I showed previously will be useful for you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Hannah, who's going to show us some of our other teaching tools for remote teaching.
Great. Yeah, so Gretchen really went over some tools for remote login, but getting the kids logged in is the first step. Then we're going to teach them using Kodable. And we've developed a series of materials here. You can also find them on the COVID-19 resources and updates page that will help you introduce Kodable for the first time in a remote setting. Again, totally useful in person as well. And how to teach some of the concepts along with the game in distance learning as well. So the first resource that I will show you is this remote learning kickoff lesson. This is a slide deck that I put together to help with that first time introducing Kodable to student experience. So we got a lot of feedback from teachers who were saying, I want to introduce Kodable to my kindergartners. I haven't met them, they're far away, I can't be there in person. What flow should I go through to show them Kodable for the first time? So this is a slide deck, and you won't be able to edit this, so just make a copy when you open it up, and then you can modify it and change it and make it your own so it works for you and your students. And this will walk through some of the background of Kodable and how to get them playing. So I won't go through every slide, but I'll just point out some highlights. There's some open-ended questions to start getting kids excited and interested in the world of Kodable. We have a video here, Meet the Fuzz Family. If you haven't seen this video, I recommend you check it out. This gives some background to the Fuzz family, why they are living on Fuzztopia, what the different worlds of Kodable are, and some background about the Fuzz family. I find that it helps kids get engaged and especially for younger students, having some sort of story background can be really powerful for kind of sparking that interest right off the bat in Kodable in general. The other very useful part of this slides deck is we walk through all the steps to getting kids logged in, because if they have their login information, great, but how do they use it? Especially if you can't read. So there's lots of pictures here for kids to follow. You could be sharing this slides deck in a Zoom call, for example, and walk kids through the steps they need to get into Kodable. And the final piece that is really helpful about this slides deck, I just added this video last week, and it is a tour of Fuzztopia. So we've gotten some feedback from teachers that they can get the kids logged in, but then what are they looking at? What is the world of Fuzztopia? What is this tree house? How do they get to the lesson, the level, the game levels? So this video will walk through all of that. It introduces Fuzztopia, and if kids ever need to go back and watch to see what is that building that I go to make my own fuzz, this video will be super helpful for them. Again, you could play it and screen share so that they can watch it with you on Zoom or something, or you could just share the link individually. So that's a great way to introduce Kodable for the first time. Again, make it your own, modify it. If you make a copy, it's totally yours. The second thing that I will point out that can be really helpful for using Kodable to teach in a remote setting or in person are these video lessons. You can find them here on the COVID page or by clicking the button on the left side menu. And these videos are broken down into two different categories. We have videos that explain, so these are videos that explain different coding concepts that kids are learning in the game. And then we also have videos for creation. So these are great for posing an open-ended challenge or some sort of an activity for kids to do that will spark a little bit more creativity. If you are using Kodable for the first time with students, I definitely recommend starting out a lesson with some sort of explain video. We have a video for every single coding concept that Kodable teaches. So whether it's sequence or conditions, loops, functions, there's a less than 5-minute video for every one of these topics. They have kid-friendly examples from the real world that kids can draw on their own experiences, and it can just really help, especially if you are feeling not super confident in your own coding ability. These videos are very helpful for introducing a concept to students for the first time. So I definitely recommend checking those out. Again, you can find them right here on the COVID page. And I did want to point out that you can assign these videos directly to students. So one option is to play it and, like I said, screen share so they can watch it with you. The other thing you can do is click this assign video to students button. It will bring up the menu and you can choose to assign the video to different classes. Gretchen later in this webinar will show you how kids will access those videos, but they can get to them directly from the game itself. So that was a feature that we had requested a lot, and we're super excited that we were able to put it in. Kids can get the videos right in the game when they need the help the most. So that is that. I have two more things I'm just going to show you for using the COVID-19 resources for teaching with Kodable. The next thing is worksheet packets. So these are packets broken down by grade level that are perfect for having an unplugged experience. These are great for those of our students that don't have computer access or access to reliable internet, or as a supplementary material to accompany the online screen time. You can also have some unplugged worksheet time. And you can download these directly from this page. I will show you what they look like now. So there are quite a few worksheets in each packet, and I'm hoping to be developing more as the semester goes on. But these worksheets were designed to kind of mirror the same experience that kids are getting in the game, but on paper. So they're broken down by concept, and if you were to download these worksheets right at this moment, they would look like this. If you download them in a couple hours, they will look like this. I'm updating them to include more content integration. So we heard from a lot of teachers that you guys wanted to know not just the coding concepts that these worksheets are teaching, but also what other skills these worksheets can be used to support. And so if you download these in a couple hours, they will have a little tag on the top for all the other integration topics that the worksheets cover. So again, great for kids to use if you want a little bit of a break from screen time or if they don't have internet or computer access. And then the final piece, if you've been using Kodable before, you know about this already, but I just want to point it out, how you assign game levels to kids. So it's on the Assignments tab on the left, and you can click on the world that you want to assign levels for. I'll start with Smeeborg, which is our introductory world. So whether your kids are in kindergarten or 5th grade, they'll probably be starting with Smeeborg. And you can assign game levels right here. So you choose the episode of levels that you want to assign. You can click the Assign button and choose the classes you want to assign the levels for. They will assign automatically, and your kids are ready to go. So when they log in to the game, they will only be able to play the levels that you have assigned here on the level assignments page. It's great if you want to stop kids from moving too far forward. You can unassign them and kind of control the pacing for your different classes. So those are some of the resources that we have, and I'll just really quickly say an example structure for how to use all of these, because that was kind of a lot of stuff. This is just a recommendation, so again, it's totally up to you, but I might recommend introducing the coding concept with a video or an explanation, some sort of instructional time. Then you can have kids fill out a worksheet, and then you can have them play the game level as just a kind of natural progression from introduction to application to playing the game levels themselves. So if you have any more questions about how to modify these resources for your own class, definitely let us know. I'm happy to work one-on-one with any teacher to make sure that you put together a structure that feels like it works for you. And now that we've kind of gone over the login tools, the teaching tools, Gretchen is going to touch on how to set up your classes, because all of this stuff is great, but it's only useful if you actually have your classes set up and ready to go from the dashboard. So I will turn it back over to Gretchen.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, so now we're going to go over how to set up one or many classes using Kodable. This is just in the nick of time because I've seen there's a question about Clever and Google Classroom, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit today. But if you do have more in-depth questions about it, I definitely recommend checking out our support center at support.kodable.com. We have a back-to-school section up at the top that has help articles on using Google Classroom, using Clever, as well as how to add classes in bulk in Kodable if you don't use Google Classroom or Clever. And then I also wanted to quickly say that I've seen there's a few parents in the crowd today, and thank you so much for showing up and helping your child learn about coding. Some of you are on the parent plan, some of you are masquerading as teachers, and that's awesome. I'm really excited. We actually are looking into some options for homeschool this year. It's something that we're exploring. So if any of you are interested in that, I encourage you to reach out to me. I would love to talk to you, learn a little bit more about what you're trying to do this school year to help your child learn, so that we can modify our parent plan for you to be the best experience. So that is something that we're looking into. You can reach me. My email is gretchen@kodable.com. I'm having those conversations this week and next week. So awesome. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hop into creating my first class. So we're going to go back to our dashboard and go to the My Classes tab over here on the left. And this is where you can add classes. This is where you can access your class page for each individual class. I have tons of classes here. So I'm just going to walk through creating a class with you. So you just click Add a Class. And I'm going to create a class name. So I'm going to name the class Back to School. And if I have lots of classes that I want to add, I'm going to click the advanced options. So this is where you could import with Google Classroom and add all of the classes at once. If you are signed up with Clever, if you've already signed up with Clever, you'll also see a Clever button here. I'm not signed up with Clever, but this is where it would show up. If you decide that you want to add multiple classes at once using the Kodable bulk import feature, you would just click this need to add multiple classes button, and that would take you to the bulk import option. So I've selected a K-5 pacing for my class because I want them to have access to everything, all of the levels in Kodable. However, if this was, say, a first grade class, and I want to pace Kodable for them as a first grade class or with content that's appropriate for a first grade class, I could just select first grade, and that would make everything that shows up in the game be focused on first grade. It would also tailor the lesson plans that show up on my class page for this class to be a first grade pacing. But I'm going to leave it open to K-5. For now, I can always change that later. Okay, I'm going to continue. And here's where I can add my students. So you can copy and paste these from a roster if you have it. If you don't and you just want to skip it for now, that's fine too. You can add students later, but I'm going to add my students. Great. Okay. And here's my class code. So this is what my students will use to log in to Kodable for to access all of the levels and to log into the game. We generate this code for you, but if you decide you want to use something that's a little bit easier for kindergartners or for first graders to remember, you can always edit this later. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Now we're going to hit continue. Great. So this is another option for sharing information with parents. These are printable invitations that are customized for each student. If you click that button, it'll generate them for you. But for now, I'm just going to skip it. All right. Well, this is my class page. So you can access a lot of tools from here. I'm not going to get too into this. Last year's webinar was heavily focused on class setup and management, and it hasn't changed. So if you have questions about this, I recommend checking out the 2019 webinar. The link is in the agenda that we sent out in an email before this started. I'm also going to ask Bree to post the link in the chat for you right now. And that is where you can find all the information about managing your class. The timestamps for everything are in the description, so you can easily find what you're looking for. But I'm just going to hop over to class settings and show you where you can edit the class code. So you just go to this class code, and I'm going to name it easy. And that's going to save. Great. This is also where I can turn on picture passwords or text passwords. A lot of people were asking us for passwords in the spring when remote learning first kicked off. And we added picture passwords and text passwords for you guys, so you can turn those off and on really easily. And then you can also change your pacing. So like I said, if I was to make this a first grade pacing, that would change what shows up on my lessons page right here. But for right now, again, I'm leaving it K-5. All right. I think that's everything for this section. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah for some instructional tips and tools.
Great. So there's a couple tools that I will go over that are on the teacher dashboard for you to use, and some of these you may have seen before, and some of these are new compared to what we had available last year. So I will start with teacher demo mode. If you don't know what teacher demo mode is, you can access it. It's that first button on the left side menu underneath the COVID-19 resources section. Teacher demo mode, you can play the Kodable game and see exactly what your students will see in the game. All of the content in Kodable is unlocked in demo mode, and there's a couple reasons why this is super helpful. One is that you can demo different levels that maybe the students haven't gotten to yet, but if you want to show a little teaser or prepare them for what's to come, you can show them exactly what levels they might see in the game coming up. You can walk through a level yourself if you want to demo or model one level and then have the kids do it at the same time. Maybe you're doing a screen share in Zoom. Or if you want to show them some of the different creative options that we have, the Fuzz Builder, Game Designer, and Maze Maker, you can access all of these as well. So demo mode is great. You can get it right on your dashboard. You don't need to create a different profile or anything. It's in the same place that all the other resources are located. So you can use teacher demo mode again to prepare yourself for lessons or to demo and model levels and activities for kids. So that is the first thing. You may have seen that before. Something that is different compared to what we had at the beginning of last year is the lesson library. Now, we used to have a resources section at the top of this dashboard as well. We have combined it with the lesson library because we wanted everything you might need to teach with Kodable to be in one easy to find place. So the lesson library looks like this. There's a couple sections. The first is a Get to Know Kodable section that includes a series of videos. You might recognize some of these we've gone over already. But if you were to click on a video, this Get to Know Kodable section, you can watch this video to learn, and then there's also a series of guides you can download because I know some teachers want to read instead of watch a video. We have a little bit for everyone. So you can download teacher guides here, how to set up devices, and how to introduce the Fuzz family all in one place. The next section, you can browse resources by Kodable World. So this is really helpful since the game is broken up into these different Kodable worlds, Smeeborg, Asteroidia, and Bug World. We wanted the lesson library to also be broken up in the same way, so it's super easy for you to follow along. Each section includes a bunch of resources, and I won't walk through every single one. I'll just point out the different materials that we do have available. So there's a teacher guide if you want to learn more about the coding content and what the kids are learning. There's some learning outcomes in here as well. You can do that. For Smeeborg at least, there's answer keys. We have a vocabulary page, and you can also get to the student videos from these world pages as well. So again, it's a lot of resources you may have already seen that we've talked about in this webinar so far, but all in one place, and the same goes for Asteroidia and for Bug World. We did get a question from a teacher who was asking, what are some recommendations for using Kodable with older students for like 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, because a lot of our resources are geared for younger kids. And I do want to point out a great way is to start with these teacher guides. The content in Bug World and Asteroidia, it's kind of confusing. It can get a little tricky, and by understanding it yourself and reading through these teacher guides, you'll be better prepared to support some older students with this content that they can totally grasp, but that might take a little bit more work and understanding, and you can show them these student videos as well to get those older kids engaged and recognizing that shooting the fuzz balls at the asteroids is teaching variables and values. So those are some resources for that. And the last section is exploring the lessons by grade. And I will just show you, when you click on the different grade levels, it has all of our lesson plans available. These are unplugged lesson plans designed for in-class collaborative use. However, even if you are remote teaching, you can click on these lessons and modify them to fit the needs of your students. A lot of them would be great for encouraging kids to get outside and do some sort of activity if that's what you're looking for. And then they also include some really helpful direct instruction scripted lesson plans that you can use. So even if you're not following the entire plan, you can pick and choose from the lessons what pieces might be helpful for you and your students. And I wanted to show that in this lesson section, you can filter, and we have a lot of other subjects aside from just coding concepts that are taught with these lessons. So we integrate with math, English language arts, robotics. We have some lessons that are social studies related and science related. So if you are curious about integrating Kodable in other subject matters, definitely check out these lesson plans and explore these different subjects that we are also catering to. For example, if I chose ELA for fifth graders, there's a choose your own adventure lesson and some letter writing lessons. So a great way to not just teach coding, but to integrate it in other subjects as well. And along with content integration and for thinking about teaching children of all different grades, we do have some resources available that will help you figure out that pacing and that scope and sequence. So there is a site on our Kodable site you can go to, which is kodable.com/outcomes. And that link Bree can share in the chat. And if you haven't seen this, this is our section of the website where we go over the different computer science standards that Kodable is meeting and that kids are learning when using Kodable. This was developed by a big team of computer science experts and the Kodable team, and breaks down what students are learning with Kodable, not just related to computational thinking, but also a lot of other skills like communication, social emotional learning, and impact. All of this is on our website, and you can also take a look at our scope and sequence. So I linked it in the agenda that we sent out, and Bree can share it in the chat as well. I linked this lesson planner because it breaks down. The beginning is a space where you can plan some of your lessons for the year, but then it also breaks down our full scope and sequence for K through 5 concepts. So this is useful for you. You can use it if you want. You don't have to, of course, but we do show you all of the different units that we teach with Kodable and a breakdown for K through 5, what kids are learning, and if you scroll down further, what game levels can be used to teach each theme and unit. So this is great if you want a little bit more support in terms of structuring your levels and lessons for each individual grade, especially for teachers using Kodable with a wide range of grades, not just one. This is great for kind of keeping track of what levels you would want students to play to meet all of those outcomes. So this is available to you. Again, I linked it in the agenda for this webinar, and I encourage you to check it out if you're looking for a little bit more support with structuring Kodable for multiple grade levels. And I think our last section, so those are the instructional tips and tools. Before I let Gretchen wrap it up, I do want to say if you have any questions about that, please let me know. My email is hannah@kodable.com, and I'm happy to work with you to put together different lesson plans or a unit plan for you and your students. Just let me know. So I will turn it back over to Gretchen, and she will show you what students do, how they log into the game, and what the game is. So Gretchen, take it away.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to, before we switch sections, Hannah, I wanted to address a couple of the questions that we got in our RSVP document. One of them was regarding, what questions can I ask my students to know if they're learning? And I did want to point out, while you were on the lesson plans page, where they can find the check for understanding section for every lesson, because that's a really useful tool. Even if you're not using the lesson plans, if you go to a lesson that's associated with the concept that your students are working on that week, you can pull that check for understanding section out and use it either as a take-home assignment, as a discussion in your Zoom call or in your classroom. And that's a great way to understand what your kids are learning from Kodable. Another option, too, is to just use the worksheet that we created, that Hannah created, to check, how well students are retaining the information from the lessons. So I just wanted to be sure to mention that while we were on it.
Great.
All right, cool. So I am going to take over. We're going to go over student login. So to log students in, they need to either download Kodable on iOS or have a browser where they can log into kodable.com/login. And Kodable works on any web browser. So as long as they have access to a computer and internet, they can get on. Or if they have an iPad or an iPhone at home, they can use Kodable for iOS. So I'm going to demonstrate how to log in on a computer. So I'm logging in to a school profile. We also have home profiles. Many of you, I think, are parents who are on a home profile. The difference here is that the school profile is set up to receive assignments. It's set up for school use. And if you are having your students learn at home, you're going to want to share the class code and let them know to log in with their school profile. The home profile is for home memberships. It's for parents who want to give their kids extra practice. It has different levels than what students are playing at school. It has different games and features, including like some coding challenges for extra practice. It has access to the store where they can like customize their fuzz and use the coins that they earn to buy, different costumes for their fuzzes or decorations for Fuzztopia. So they're very different, but complementary. So depending on what kids are learning at school, their parents may want to opt into getting a home membership, and that would be the home profile login. But for school use, we're going to use the school profile. So I'm going to use my class code that has some progress already. So I'm going to screen this class. Okay, and I'm going to click on my name. So for a view of what Kodable will look like the first time students log in, I recommend using the Fuzztopia tour video, sharing that with your students, watching that to understand what Fuzztopia will look like for them the first time they log in. I've played with this profile already, so everything is unlocked. This is what Fuzztopia will eventually look like. But to see what that unlocking and that first experience is like, I definitely recommend that video that we shared earlier. But I'm just going to hop right into it. So Fuzztopia has a lot of different places where your students can explore. There's Maze Maker, where they can create their own maze levels and practice using sequencing, conditions, loops, and functions. There's Game Designer, where they can create their own games using Asteroidia variables and properties. There's Fuzz Builder, where they can build their own characters, and they are exploring what JavaScript and Swift look like. And then there are some other sections that students have access to at home to play more levels. And then we have here the Videos tab. This is where students will see the videos that you assign to them from your teacher dashboard. And the videos appear in order that they were assigned. So this was the most recently assigned video on June 23rd for my class. I assigned a video on loops, so it shows up at the top. If I was to assign one today, it would show up above this one. So it's going to show, the most recent is going to show up at the top. There's also a tab for all videos, and this is where students can kind of explore on their own. If they want to find videos that are helpful for what they're learning at the moment, they can hop over here and see all of the videos and sort by concept. I wouldn't recommend that for your younger students, but for some of your older students who can do self-directed learning, I think that that's a good option. Okay, so I'm going to hop back into the game, and I'm going to show mission control. So mission control is where your students jump off into all of the different games that are assigned from your teacher dashboard. This is where you can direct them to find their assignments. So the first world that most of your students will start with is Smeeborg, and Smeeborg is focused on programming logic and some of the problem-solving skills that are important for learning to code. There's no text, so it's all symbol-based. It's great for your youngest learners, but it's also useful for your older students to start with so that they have a solid foundation before they hop into any text-based coding. Students are going to learn about sequencing, conditions, loops, and functions. Then next is Asteroidia, and Asteroidia is for probably your third and fourth grade students. This is their first transition into written code. We start introducing what variables are, what they look like. In conjunction with the videos, it's a really helpful place for them to start getting familiar with what code looks like and how JavaScript is used. In Asteroidia, they're matching different fuzzballs with different properties to the matching asteroids to clear the asteroid field. And then we have Bug World, which is for our fourth and fifth grade students. This is where we're starting to introduce them to object-oriented programming. Students are battling the slimes of Bug World and defending the Fuzz family with their hero defenders. They can modify the properties and the objects that are used in this game to basically win the game. And the last world is Beach Cleanup. This was our Hour of Code event last year, and it was so popular we decided to make it a permanent game within Kodable. It's appropriate for all ages, K through 5. They can customize the difficulty, so they can choose if they want it to be easy, medium, or hard. In there, they can practice sequencing, conditions, loops, and functions. And kids can draw their own maze, and then they have to pick up trash on the beach. And then they have to program their way through that maze that they just designed. And the last thing that I want to point out here is the quick play button. A lot of you asked for this. It used to be in Kodable and it disappeared, and now it's made a return because back by popular demand, we added the quick play button. So the quick play button just does exactly what it says. It goes directly to the last level that your student was on. So it's easy for them to quickly get back to the level they were on, or quickly get to the assigned levels without having to navigate through all the different menus. Okay, and with that, I am going to switch to our Q&A section. So if you have any questions about anything that we've covered so far, please post that in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that we had over. Oh, sorry, just lost my notes. Okay, I'm going to answer some of the questions that we had in the RSVP link, some that we didn't have time to answer here. So I'm just going to quickly go over those. So I've covered what devices Kodable is accessible on, iPads and any computer browser. Another question that we have is, what will be accessible to schools who do not have a technology budget this year? And that's really important. We did want to cover that. So the free version of Kodable includes the first 2 sets of levels in each unit. So if you think about sequence, it's going to have the first 2 sets of levels in that unit available for free, as well as the first lesson plan in that unit. And that's true for all Kodable units. However, to help the schools that are kind of struggling due to changes caused by the pandemic, we are offering access to all lessons in the lesson library through December of this year, so through December of 2020. It does not include levels in the game, but it does include all teaching materials, all lesson plans, and videos in the lesson library. You will have access to those through the end of this calendar year. What kind of questions can I ask my kids to find out what they're learning from the material? Oh, we covered that already. How do I assign Kodable through Google Classroom? So I talked about this a little bit. I definitely recommend checking out our support center, but assigning through Kodable is simple in Google Classroom. We do have a help article in our support center for that. When you add, I do want to point out though that when you add students using the Google Classroom import, it's not a two-way integration. So when you do it, make sure that everything is in there, because if you make any changes to your Google Classroom after that's been done, you'd have to redo the import. It doesn't automatically change in Kodable when you make changes in Google Classroom.
Gretchen, could I add one thing about the Google Classroom question?
Sure.
Great. So, yeah, like Gretchen mentioned, you can use Google Classroom to add your students to Kodable super easy, and that integration will add them. You click a button and it'll happen automatically. In terms of assigning Kodable levels through Google Classroom, that will look like in Google Classroom when you have that assignments or like the classwork section, you can post the link to Kodable, like kodable.com/login, or I actually might, Gretchen, will you share my screen really quick so I can show this? On your teacher dashboard, you can select your class. So I'm on the dashboard, I'm clicking on my classes. You can select your class, and at the top, it says class code. This is the class code that I set up for this class. If I click this, it will automatically open up my roster. I can copy this URL and post this to Google Classroom. That way, when my kids log into their Google Classroom, all they need to do is click this link. It will open up this page automatically. They don't need to enter their class code. This will pop up automatically, and then they can choose their name. So in terms of assigning through Google Classroom, that is probably the easiest way to do it. It's just a one click for your students and they'll be brought immediately to their roster. They just need to find their name to log in.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next question is similar. If students used Kodable last year and logged in through Clever, how do I move them to their new class and new teacher? Will it resync automatically? It might not resync automatically. It depends on if you are on a paid version of Kodable or not. But if you want to do the sync manually, just log into your Kodable dashboard and click the Sync with Clever button on the My Classes page, and that will start the sync and make sure that all of your students are in the correct class. And Bree, if you could link to that support article in the chat, that would be helpful. Okay, awesome. So let's see, I think that Bree is handling all of the questions in the chat, but someone did ask, what is the best practice? Having kids start over each year or moving them to a new class and keeping their progress? And it really is up to you. You can transfer students, but it's in Google Clever, or you can actually, we have a transfer option within Kodable as well. You can transfer students and their progress will stay with, but we do recommend starting them over each year if you are wanting to manage what they're doing in Kodable. If it's a free play scenario in your classroom, that's totally fine. I would recommend keeping their progress because kids love all of the things that they create. But if you happen to be trying to structure your lessons following a certain pacing, it is fine to start them over from where they need to be each year. Mm-hmm. Let me see if there's any other questions we want to cover. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so Luke asked, if we archive or delete a class, do children still have access to the projects that they have made? And the answer is no. If the class is deleted, it's gone. So the students won't be able to log in, the class code will no longer work, and their progress will no longer be in Kodable. Okay.
It looks like Stephanie wrote, does the iPad app have access to the same content as playing on the website? I can see, where that confusion might come from. Yes, it is exactly the same product. So if you click log in with a school profile on the iPad app or log in with a school profile on the website, it will look exactly the same and they will have access to the same content playing on either platform.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Oh, Claire asked about our social channels. So you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We love having you guys a part. We are always sharing new things there. We actually have a new member of the Kodable team who's going to be working on all of our social channels, and you're going to start to see and hear from her more. Her name's Maria. She just joined us a week ago. Maria, she's watching right now. So, but that's who you'll be talking to if you chat with us on social. And so please feel free to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is at Kodable on all of those channels. We also just started a Seesaw page and are posting activities there. So if you're looking for some Seesaw activities that use Kodable, check out our blog. There's a page there with all of our Seesaw activities. And then the last channel to definitely mention is our YouTube channel, because Hannah has done a great job of making our YouTube the hub for all things video. So like if you're looking for a video to teach your students about anything in Kodable, you can probably find it on our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to our channel and you'll get notifications when we post new things there.
Totally. And I will add at the bottom of the COVID-19 resources page on your teacher dashboard, I didn't show it when I was going through my demo, but there is a button to click that says, are we missing anything? Are you looking for anything that we don't have? If you know that your students would really benefit from a certain type of video, I'm making them almost every week and I'm happy to take suggestions. So if you have a topic idea for a video that you're looking for, please feel free to fill out that form. You can find it exactly on the COVID-19 resources page, and I will take a look and connect with you if it seems like something that other teachers would benefit from.
Great. I'm going to cover a couple of more questions that we got from our CP page. So how do you handle teaching remotely to kids who are way ahead of others in class? So I think with all of the different tools that we've shared today, it might be a little bit easier to do this remotely than it was in the classroom. So if you want to move all of your all-stars to a separate Kodable class and then assign advanced videos and levels to them, that would be my recommendation, so that any students who are ready for more challenging content would have their own class code and login, and they would be able to access it all from home at their own pace. Hannah, do you have anything to add to that for your arena?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I showed the concept videos, the explain concept videos on the dashboard. The other section of that was the create videos, and sort of what Gretchen was saying. If you were to create, if let's say half your class is moving at a much faster pace than the other half, you could create 2 classes, and then for the class that's moving ahead, if you don't want them to do more game levels, but you still want them to have meaningful experiences with Kodable, you could assign them one of those creative videos. They're basically mini challenges. We call them coding missions, and a lot of them use the creative activities in Kodable, the fuzz builder, the maze maker, and the game designer, and those never expire. Kids can create as many projects as they want in using those platforms. So that's one option. You could have those kids that are moving ahead do kind of an open-ended creative project as you have some of the other students playing the levels and catching up. So yeah, Gretchen's just showing how there were the explain videos on the left and the create videos on the right. There's 8 coding missions so far, but I'm creating more all the time. And again, they're like short 4-minute mini challenges. Some of them are unplugged, some of them are plugged in. So that's a great way to keep kids engaged if they're moving in the levels faster. They can do an activity to kind of pump the brakes and fill the time there.
Yeah, so to kind of add on to that, suggested structure that Hannah mentioned earlier about assigning a video to introduce a concept, if you wanted to assign, say you were covering functions that week, you could assign the introduction to functions, and then you could also assign this fashionable functions coding mission video that is for kids who have extra time. So if they move ahead and they're ready for something more challenging that is functions related, then you could assign this video to them.
Oh, and I will say for the parents that are watching, the families that are watching, these videos, the coding missions and the concept videos, also show up onto your parent dashboard. So, and they're free on our YouTube channel as well. So these are not just for teachers. These can be used by anybody who wants a little extra activity or explanation for the coding concept. Feel free to use these whether you're a teacher or a parent, or both.
Definitely. Okay, and then we have a couple more questions here. Oh, I love this question. This is the last question we have from the RCP. How can I teach coding outdoors without computers? And I love this in any scenario, but it sounds like it might be a COVID related solution to in-person instruction, which is sounds great. If you're in person, take a look at the lesson library. Every single lesson plan includes an unplugged portion that is perfect for instruction outside without computers. So all of the lesson plans that Hannah was showing from the lesson library have a guided practice section, and that is meant to be unplugged. It may be a collaborative activity, or it might include a worksheet. It might have kids, doing some sort of a obstacle course. There's lots of different things that we have there, getting them to move and think about computer science in the way that it relates to them with the world around them, not just on computers. Okay, so that's all of our questions that we had prepared in advance. Are there any questions from anyone in the chat? We've got a couple more minutes.
It looks like Bree is a superhero in that chat right now, and it looks like she's covering most of them. So thank you, Bree.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's see if there's anything I want to point out. Oh, this is a good one, and it's probably a good one to point out right now. So I teach Kodable as a parent to my 6-year-old. Is there a live chatbot or support system if they're stuck with a problem?
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a live chatbot, although we do have a support. We all do support at Kodable. We have a support channel where you can reach out to us. But for kids, we don't recommend that. It's not set up for us to answer their questions. However, we have added a hint system into Smeagol using FuzzBuzz. She uses this fairy fuzz that's helpful. She likes to fly in and give hints if they need it. And she'll hold a little question mark sign on the side of the level if they've been inactive for a little bit of time, and they can tap on. I like to leave it up to kids. Sometimes they're just thinking and they don't need a hint, but sometimes they do. So she will fly in and give a hint to your child or your student if they need it. We did just introduce this, so if you have any feedback about the way that the hints are given, we would love it. You can always reach out to us with that feedback at support@kodable.com, and that's where you can reach out to any of us if you have questions after this webinar is over. All right. I think that I haven't seen any questions pop up. I think that Bree handled most of them. She's an all-star. But if you, like I said, if you guys have any questions after the fact, please reach out to us. And we're looking forward to the school year.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, feel free to reach out with any other questions. We are here to support you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.